Thank you all for coming out this morning. It seems as though women's health is a topic that you can't pick up a newspaper or listen to the radio or turn on a TV without hearing about. And yesterday we were given another example of why McKenna is the wrong choice for women as governor of Washington State. McKenna has been given repeated opportunities to say where he stands on women's health. He has consistently not taken a position on a bill that was introduced last session in the state legislature called the Reproductive Parity Act. He often refers to himself as pro-choice, but we really don't know where he stands on these issues. Yesterday, we had the opportunity to have a young woman who you're going to hear from in a moment ask Mr. McKenna where he does stand on the Reproductive Parity Act. And she asked him a very simple question: where do you stand? And in response, he was dismissive to her, he was insulting, and essentially said to her she should get a job. Not only did he dodge the question once again, but his response to Kendra Oben, who works with teenage girls at the YMCA, was really disrespectful and inappropriate. So I'm here today with other advocates for women's health to say that we can't support a candidate who doesn't stand up for women's health. And that's why we support Jay Inslee for governor of Washington State. Jay Inslee is the only pro-choice and pro-women's health candidate in the race for governor. He is outspoken for contraception and unwavering in his support for women's health. He has been there for years speaking out about the rights of women and their access to health care. He took a position on the Reproductive Parity Act shortly after it was introduced last January. He firmly supports access to women's health for women in Washington, as well as their access to the full range of reproductive health options, which is why Planned Parenthood Roads Northwest was very proud last week to announce our endorsement of Jay Inslee for governor. It's my great pleasure to introduce to you now Kendra Oben, who has joined us to share her story about her encounter with Mr. McKenna yesterday.
Good morning, I'm Kendra Oben. I grew up in Eastern Washington and moved to Seattle to become an outdoor educator. I'm currently working at the Y running an after-school program for urban girls that uses rock climbing as a vehicle to build community, resilience, and self-awareness in young women. Our program seeks to restore healthy messages about women's bodies, what is possible for their lives, and emboldens our participants to envision a more courageous future. The Reproductive Parity Act is an important issue for me and the various communities that I come from. It affects my family, peers, and the young women that I work with. That said, it's crucial that the rights and health of the women of Washington State, rural, urban, and suburban, are supported in order to create space for women to choose their own futures. Yesterday, I was downtown where Rob McKenna had been speaking. Knowing he has yet to let us know where he stands on the Reproductive Parity Act, I asked him exactly that: what is your stance? McKenna hid behind his office and verbally attacked me for asking the question. This is obviously an unacceptable way for an elected official to respond to a legitimate question. Certainly, more should be expected from someone who wants to be governor. I attempted to keep pace with him as he quickly walked away. Before bolting, he questioned if I was really asking and asked what I do, so I told him I'm a youth worker. Ultimately, he abruptly ended our conversation by telling me to get a job. At this point, I was more shocked than anything. It stopped me in my tracks to experience both his aggression and disregard for me as an interested community member and voter. As I have told you, I have a job of value that provides urban girls with access to programs and support to help them build the future that they want for themselves. The Reproductive Parity Act plays an important role in assuring that women across the state can build the future that they want as well. Rob McKenna has still failed to answer my question, and ultimately I expect him to.
Thank you, Kendra. And now we'll hear from Allison Mundy from Washington State NARAL pro-choice.
Thank you, Elaine, and thank you all for coming this morning. My name is Allison Mundy. I am the Public Policy and Communications Director at NARAL Pro-Choice Washington, which is a statewide grassroots pro-choice advocacy organization. NARAL and our coalition partners made the Reproductive Parity Act a top legislative priority because of what is at stake for Washington women. This legislation requires health insurance policies sold in the state that cover maternity care to provide comparable coverage coverage for abortion care. As Washington moves forward with the implementation of the federal health care reform law, it is critical that we as a state ensure that women don't get left behind. Without legislation like the Reproductive Parity Act, there is no guarantee that Washington women will continue to have access to health insurance coverage for abortion care. In fact, because of administrative hurdles inserted into the federal health care reform law that make it more difficult for insurance companies to cover abortion, women who currently have abortion coverage could lose that coverage. All women, regardless of their income bracket, need and deserve access to truly comprehensive reproductive health care coverage. Personal medical decisions should not be dictated by what a woman's insurance does or does not cover. While states across the country are enacting draconian measures to shame women and make it harder to access reproductive health care, Washington stood apart as a leader for women's health in considering the Reproductive Parity Act. Elections matter. Who we elect as governor matters. Washington women expect their governor to stand up for women's health and be an outspoken champion for women's rights. Jay Inslee will be just that kind of governor. He proudly and vocally supported and continues to support the Reproductive Parity Act. In stark contrast, Rob McKenna has gone to great lengths to avoid discussing his position on women's health issues and has repeatedly refused to say where he stands on the Reproductive Parity Act and women's health care coverage overall. This is not the kind of leadership Washington women deserve. We need a governor who unequivocally supports women's access to basic health care, not one who runs for cover every time this issue is raised. The question remains, if he were governor, would Rob McKenna sign the Reproductive Parity Act or would he veto it? NARAL Pro-Choice Washington's statewide network of tens of thousands of members and activists is mobilized and working to make sure Washington voters know where both of the candidates stand on women's rights and health. And now I would like to introduce Monica Harrington, who is co-chair of Washington Women for Choice.
Hi, everybody. I am the co-chair of Washington Women for Choice, and but more importantly, I'm also a businesswoman and a former technology executive. I've helped start 2 very successful companies in the Seattle area, and I worked at Microsoft for 11 years. I've been in the high-tech sector for more than 25 years. And I can tell you that there is no way to talk about business and the economy unless you're upfront about where you stand on women's reproductive health. I'm somebody who couldn't have done what I did. I couldn't have helped get those businesses off the ground if I didn't have control over my reproductive health. I'm somebody who went to Planned Parenthood as a teenager. I was very grateful for the services they provide. And I know that as part of the recruiting effort, where I've gone out and hired people, one of the things that I've celebrated is that Washington State is a state that values women and that protects their rights to control their own bodies. And what I'm very fearful of is that Rob McKenna is a very smart person who is dodging this key issue. What I know about him is that he is personally opposed to abortion. I also know that he believes life begins at conception, and he will not be clear about which laws he's going to support or fight when it comes to protecting women's reproductive health. And we all know that those rights are under assault. If you look at the candidates from the Republican Party for president, all of them were jockeying to see how conservative they could possibly be on this issue. And again, Rob McKenna was silent. I know that he will not speak to women's groups about these issues. I know that he will attend Tea Party conferences and go to those types of meetings. And what I want to ask him is, how can you pretend to be a governor who is focused on the economy if you won't address this one issue that is so central to women's economic participation? Thank you.